welcome everyone to Blended Thoughts. We are happy to be here with you once again.
Yes, we hope you had a great weekend. Today we wanted to talk about a subject that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, and it's very normal in Hispanic culture, and it's parenting your parents.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it in our previous podcast, so we wanted to talk about on this one. And now that you know you're gonna be a mom, I don't know, I just feel like it's gonna be something very different.
Yes.
For the baby.
Yeah, and it's being an immigrant, or a child immigrant, there's a lot of responsibility that's placed on you from an early age. Not necessarily because the parent wants to, but because they don't have a choice.
Right.
But I think with the trajectory of life, the parent gets used to it.
Yeah.
So for my child, I hope to not place this responsibility on them and just like let them be a kid and let them be their own adult without having to take care of me. Obviously, I hope they want to take care of me if they need to in the future. But I mean, I'm sure growing up, you and a lot of our listeners knew what it was like when you're like playing with your friends and your mom's like, I need you to come translate for me at Walmart. Ugh.
Right. Yeah.
Or at Best Buy.
Yeah. And I mean, the point of this conversation is for you guys to know that you're not the only ones. You know, it's something that I feel like a lot of immigrants go through and maybe still go through no matter how old you get. You know, it's something that you gotta deal with.
You and I are still dealing with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like we're not going to. And sometimes we have to wake up and be like, okay, enough. Like, I love my dad, but my dad's a prime example. He got used to me doing everything for him growing up when it comes to language. That even now, I'll go to his house and he'll be like, oh, this letter came in the mail. Can you read it for me? And I'm like, did you open it? No. Did you try to read it? No. And it's like, I don't have to. Like, they just hand it off. Like, here, you take care of it. You translate it and tell me what decision I need to make. And it's like... Okay, no. Now I'm in my 30s. Like, you're an adult. Like, you can at least attempt to try. Can you imagine having somebody you just, like, throw all your problems to and be like, oh,
I know, like, I don't know, I don't understand, and then you just do it. And I get it, you know, when I moved here for the first time, I had to learn the language, and then I had to learn how things worked. But I feel like parents also need to step it up and learn it, and don't depend on their kids just because... You know, it's new for them because it was also new for their kids. Right. So it has to be like a balance between both.
My mom does a good job, I feel like. My mom will only, like, burden me with stuff when she really tries. Mm-hmm. Like, she'll get a letter and she'll read it and she'll just not understand certain words or what the whole thing is about. And she'll be like, hey, can you read it? But she's like, I think this is what it says. Can you tell me what it's about? And, like, I appreciate that because you tried. Right. Not like, here, go take care of my problem.
Yeah, and I also think that it's the kid's fault. Like, in my case, you know, I think...
You're no longer a kid.
I feel like from the beginning, maybe if I was, like, taking the time to teach my mom on how to do it instead of doing it for her. Right. Maybe now it would have been different. But to me... My mentality is like, it's just faster and easier if I do it. Just give it to me and then I'll do it for you and then just leave me alone, you know? So now it's like...
Which is not good. And I'm glad you brought that point up because it's like, now that I'm going to be a parent, I can't just do everything for my kid. Yes. And because it's faster for me to do it because I'm doing them a disservice. Like, there's this quote that I really like that's don't handicap your children by making their life easy. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if I go in and like, oh, I'll just do it. I'll take care of it because it's faster and you're going to do it wrong. You're not teaching them anything. Exactly. And our parents are our kids, unfortunately. Yeah. And I'm sure not just the Hispanic culture, but other cultures. I mean, the American culture is not like that.
No, I was telling you, I was talking about this with my fiance. He's born and raised in the U.S., you know, and he was like... I would have never thought about, like, people having to do this for their parents. Mm-hmm.
It's like having a kid.
And it's like having a kid. It's like, I understand the language barrier, but again, like, parents really need to put some effort. And I know, like, life gets busy. Maybe parents have to work, and they don't really have the time. Like, they have to cook, clean, whatever. Yeah. But there's always, like, the need for you to...
But they're the parent.
Learn.
At the end of the day.
And take care of your kid.
I mean, even if your child is an adult, you're still the parent. Yeah. And I've actually... You know about Chip. Everybody, all of my friends know about Chip. Chip is my most amazing, wonderful therapist who I love so much. And I really respect what he says. And this is something I brought up in therapy because it's exhausting. Mm-hmm. It's exhausting having to navigate your way through life, being in your 20s and 30s and kind of like figuring things out while still having an actually adult children. Parents are more difficult than little kids, because a little kid, you can discipline them and tell them, no, you're not going to do this. You can tell your parent you can't do this, but they're still going to do whatever they want, because then they're like, I'm an adult. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Or they're like, no, like, try do it yourself. And they're like, no, you don't want to help me. Like,
yes. The guilt trip.
Like,
The guilt. Oh my God. I hate that's actually, Chip would say that's really bad parenting. And that's toxic parenting, because you're guilting your child, and that's not their responsibility.
Yeah.
But I've told him, you know, like, I have to do this for my parents. And he was like, no, you don't. When you were a child, you didn't have a choice, but after you became an adult, you have a choice. And I'm like, but if I don't do it for them, then they could lose their house, and they could be on the street.
Yeah, or they won't pay the bills, or they'll forget, or, you know, the credit card, whatever.
And then you're like, all these bad things are going to happen when I could have just taken care of it. But he's like, Jasenia, they figured out life before you existed just fine. I'm like, but it was a different country. Yeah. They spoke the language, and we make excuses. It's literally enabling it.
Yeah.
And now I'm really tough with my dad. Like, he gets pissed off at me, but the other day he was like, oh, can you read this letter for me? And I'm like, is it in English? He's like, no, it's in Spanish. But I don't understand what they're talking about. I mean, aside from the language, there's policies and procedures and things that happen here that don't happen in our native countries, and we don't understand, honestly. Right. And I'm like, can you just try? And he's like, well, I need to make a decision. And I was like, well, I'm not going to read it until you try. And he got mad and he ripped up the letter. And I was like, well, you made a decision. Yeah. And it's like, you have to do tough love, because if not, and they don't do it in a bad way, but they get comfortable.
Yes, and maybe they don't see, like, how much, like, pressure they're putting on you, because they think that you know it all, and that it's easier for you. Like, sometimes I had to do stuff for my mom that I didn't even know how to do, and I had to Google, like, everything and what things meant, and, like, really do research, because I had no idea. I was, like, I was young. I was 15, 16, and I had, like, no idea. I had to, like, I remember for school, I used to, like, sign my own papers and stuff, because it's like, my mom is not even gonna
the thought of sitting there and having to explain is like, forget it, I'll just sign it. No, I totally agree. And my dad would be like, I don't understand this industry. I'm like, I don't either. Exactly. I have no idea. Like, my parents unfortunately went through financial hardship, and I had to do, like, they filed bankruptcy, and I had to do all the bankruptcy paperwork. I'm not an attorney. 11.
Yeah.
I would have, every time they applied for a job, I had to fill out the application. Yeah. I had to do everything. When they bought a house, everything. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but you figure it out.
It's the same thing with me, you know, like, helping with job applications.
And with your brother.
Trying to figure out bills. I help my mom with my brother. Like, my brother is very independent because of the same reason. You know, I think that's an advantage. You know, like, those things make you grow up a little more and be more independent.
Independent and responsible? Or just independent?
And responsible.
Okay.
You know, because he understands that my mom doesn't get it, so he tries to do things, like, the way that he can. Right. And then same thing with school. He is the one sending the emails to the teacher that he's not going to be going to school because XYZ. Yeah. From my mom's email. I know. But he's the one doing it, because my mom is not.
And it makes us responsible, honestly. That's why I'm like, I grew up being not just my parents' parent, but, like, I have an aunt who needed help. My grandparents. Yeah. Like, when my grandparents passed away, I did everything. I went to the morgue. I went to the morgue when my grandmother passed away. I had to do the paperwork. We couldn't afford a funeral. Yeah. And I was, like, Googling city, like, what is it called? Programs that could help us, because we couldn't financially. And I was able to find some program that would pay for her to get an incinerated, basically cremated.
Yeah.
And, like, I had to do all the paperwork
Yes.
at 19 for my grandma to get cremated.
Yeah.
Like, so when I see, I think, as you know, so, well, you guys don't know, I'm very tough and mean sometimes. And I don't...
Very honest.
Yeah, and I don't mean to come off as mean, but I think I've had to do so much for myself and for everybody that I don't have patience for people's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, either you do it or you make an excuse.
Yeah.
I've always said that. I'm like, everything I have in life, I've had to navigate and figure it out myself. So when people would be like, oh, like, I don't have patience.
Yeah.
I don't.
Or I don't have time because I have to do this. It's like, you can organize yourself. I'm sure you have some time to, like, do it, you know?
In college, I went to school full-time and I worked full-time.
Yeah.
I worked 40 hours a week and went to school full-time. And I remember I would have these girls in my class that would be like, oh my God, I don't know when I'm going to get homework done. I'm just so busy. I'm like, oh, do you work? And they're like, no, I just go to school full-time. I'm like, oh my God.
I know.
Like, what do you do with your time?
Yeah.
But when we were talking about parenting our parents, I think part of it has affected you in not wanting kids.
Yeah.
Because of responsibilities placed on you. It was like a lot. I'm sure
I
there's
mean,
more, but that's part of it.
It's part of it. I know that, you know, in your case, you already know kind of like the system and how things work. And then I don't think your kid will have to go through the same things that we did. But it makes you think, like, things are not easy, you know?
Nope.
And not only helping my mom with everything because, you know, she is not fluent in English. I think she could do more than she thinks she can, but she's not trying.
But she doesn't have to because Valeria will do it.
You know, I've always been like there, like with my mom. Like, Mom, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you already call that?
You're her mom.
So it's like I have to take care of my own stuff plus my mom, you know,
and
it's like, and my brother, which is like, I feel bad for him because I went through the same thing and I know how it feels, you know?
But there's somebody, but you didn't have somebody like you helping her.
Yeah.
So that's totally different.
Yeah, I have my older sister, but she moved back to Mexico for college.
Okay.
So then I stayed here with my mom.
So you were
and that's why I was the one, you know, doing everything. Basically.
And sometimes not just not just the language thing, and again, things are done in this country some ways that I'm like, what the heck? This doesn't even make sense.
It's hard. Like, you were talking about, like, finding that program to help you out. Yep. I feel like there's not enough information out there. You really have to dig in and, like, find it.
Yeah.
And my mom's computer skills are not the best
either.
My
mom doesn't know how to turn it on.
It's like, where do I go? Like, how do I do it?
Yeah.
And like, instead of like Googling it, she wants to go to the place and like, it's too time consuming. And I'm like, Mom, just find the phone number and call.
Yeah.
Like, these days, people have Spanish options like
everywhere.
For everything. You can do it. I don't have time because I have to do ABC.
No. And it's like a lot of things. The language, how things are done, and technology.
Yes.
Like, that throws a whole nother loop. My mom doesn't even know how to turn a computer on. I'm so proud of her. She has a Facebook, and now she knows how to use Facebook.
Same with my mom. Like, she's Facebook obsessed now. And I'm like, you said you didn't have time.
I know. You know what's funny? I was like, oh, my mom will never learn how to use Facebook. And one of my friends was like, hey, your mom just requested me on Facebook. I'm like, what are you talking about? My mom doesn't even understand what an email is.
Yeah.
And she figured it out. I'm like, how'd you figure that out?
Right. When they want to do something, they do it. You know?
But the whole technology aspect, and again, I mean, it's frustrating for us. Like, so when I was laid off this year, or not laid off, furloughed, I had to do the unemployment process, right? File a claim. And it is so absurd. I mean, we all know the debacle this year, but it was just so difficult for me to figure it out. And I had to do it for my dad, too. Like, I can't expect my dad to figure it out if I can't figure it out. Like, I have a college degree, and I don't even understand the unemployment process. Right. And then there's, like, all these different programs that he could apply for, but everywhere you go gives you conflicting information. And I'm like, there's no way he's going to figure that out. So I'm just going to figure out myself and do it. Yeah. But I do think, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to having to translate. Oh my God. So I hate translating. Translate every single thing. Yeah. And then explain the process. Yeah. And they're like, pero por qué? And you're like, I don't know why. Yeah. It's just how it is. Just do it.
Yeah. Like, it's something as simple as ordering, like getting your food on the drive-thru.
Oh,
it's like, you order it for me. What do you
God.
want? You know, like,
It's
I had to
so
do it. Now
true.
my brother has to do it. And, like, my mom does go sometimes by herself. And, like, she can do it. But
my
she won't
parents
do it
can't.
if I'm in the car or my brother's in the car.
That's so funny you say that because my parents have never been through a drive-thru by themselves.
No.
Like, they get freaked out, and then my dad is like, you do it. It just made me think of a George Lopez, like, joke that he said that some Mexican guy was working at the as a cashier, and then a Caucasian person went through a drive-thru and said, "Can I have a fountain drink?" And he was like, "What is fountain drink? What?" And then the other guy was like, "Oh, fountain drink is soda." And he's like, "Fountain drink is soda? Stupid, why did you say soda?" Like,
Yeah.
it's like a small thing, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Uber Eats or like
None of
ordering food
No.
to get picked up. My dad's like, "Can you just do it and I'll give you the money?" Like, it freaks them out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, you're not, it's like going, I mean, I get it, like, but at the same time, when I travel and I go to countries that I don't speak any of the languages,
Yeah.
I still try, and you
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think part of the problem is us.
Yes.
Because
I agree.
like you said,
You
oh,
know?
we'll just do it. And it's like, no.
Yeah. And it's also like you feel bad. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, you know,
It's
like
guilt.
being there with your parents and then you have to, you know, help your mom with everything, your parents with everything. And if you're not, then you're being a bad kid, you
And
know.
they tell
and then,
you.
Yeah.
And that's
so,
not
and
cool.
it's like, I want to help,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's just so consuming that I don't really want to help, but then I have to do it because if not, nobody's going to do it.
You don't have to, as Chip would say.
I know.
To.
I mean, it's hard.
Oh,
it's just
I get
really
it.
tough.
I fight with Chip.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I have to. And he was like, no,
Yeah.
you don't.
But he's right, you know? Like, if I wasn't here, I'm
Your
sure
mom would
she
figure it
can
out.
figure it out. Or ask my brother.
What if your brother didn't exist? She
Exactly.
would figure it
Yeah.
out. Like, they went through life figuring things out they didn't understand. And we are part of the problem. And it's like, and I get it. I think you should always take care of your parents, but that should come like at a late age in their life.
Yeah.
You know, when we switch, they become children.
Exactly.
But I've been taking
like
care of my
not
parents.
having to fill out the paperwork that they should be filling out, you know, or
Yep.
making calls that you're not supposed to be calling.
Yeah. Oh, I pretend to be
that
my mom.
pretending that you're my mom. I had one lady telling me once, "Oh, you sound so young," and I'm like, "Yeah, I've been told before."
Oh, I've
but
done
it's
that.
like you gotta do it.
I know every Latin kid listening can relate that they have pretended to be their parent
Yes.
on the phone.
Yes.
Because then, even if they'll be like, "Oh, but if I get somebody in Spanish, it's going to take 2 hours for the wait for somebody in Spanish. English is faster."
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what, forget it. I've changed so many policies. I mean, this is illegal, but
yeah.
you have to.
And that's the thing. There's things that like kids that were born here don't really realize.
Oh my God.
You know,
can you imagine just like on a Saturday not having to go anywhere, translate anything, do anything, and be like, hey, we're moving here, and you just like pack up your stuff. You don't have to fill out like a rental application.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
I had to do that. My mom got divorced and it was a tough situation. So I had to like find apartments and like sign up to get like electricity bills and all that crap that I had to do it myself because she's like, I don't know, like, you know. Valeria will take care of it, so I'm not worrying about it.
Again, that's your fault. I mean, it's our fault. It is because we're like, oh, but if we don't do it, I'm pretty sure if she had a breakup or a divorce, if you weren't there, she would still figure it out.
Yeah.
Like they always figure it out. But I have been making it a point to be tougher in that sense because it's like, again, I'm handicapping mainly my dad. I'm handicapping them, and they don't read. Like my poor mom, I feel bad for her because she gets really frustrated. Everything for work she has to do on an app now, like all her time entry, vacation requests, her checks, and she hates technology. And then she gets locked out of her account all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what does it say? I don't know, it's not working. I'm like, just read it. It'll tell you why you're locked out. Do you need this? Do you need that? They don't read it. They're just like, ah.
Yeah.
And they get pissed. And it's like, okay, I get it. But I think it's going to definitely play a role in my raising my child.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a burden. And it's like backwards. I don't want to make their life easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it has to be a burden. You want to be able to help your parents with whatever you want, like whenever, no matter how old you are.
Yep.
The thing is that as a parent, like, you also don't want to put like everything on your kid, because
they're still a kid.
That's still a kid, you know, and that they shouldn't be worrying about adult stuff.
Exactly. Yep. No,
So.
it's like at 10 or 11, I was like, oh, okay, let me file bankruptcy. And my friend's like, oh, you want to go jump on the trampoline? I was like, no, I got to fill out paperwork.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's the thing. It's good and bad. I think it's mainly bad, but it forces you to grow up so quickly that a lot of your childhood innocence is gone. For me, it was anyways, because I knew the realities of life at a young age.
Yeah.
Like, I knew if we didn't pay the rent, we're going to get kicked out, and then I have to find another place. I knew if my dad talked back to his boss, he's going to get fired, and then I have to find him another job. I have to do the application.
Yeah.
I have to do everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, don't talk back to your boss, or you shouldn't worry about that.
Yeah.
At a young age. You should just be, but at the same time, it made us so responsible.
Yeah.
And it made us be able to get to where we want quicker.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have friends that were like, why are you having to do that? And it's like,
because
this is my normal.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
What you
and
deal
it's
with.
so different. It's so different from, a kid that doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
From a kid that does.
Yeah.
And then sometimes other people don't see it and don't get it and don't understand it. And maybe they can be rude about it, and it's just, like those organizations that offer help. Like, you have to have personnel that has the patience for immigrants that don't understand anything, like the process, because like you said, some processes are even frustrated for me. Imagine for somebody that doesn't speak the language, that doesn't know what the heck. Technology. Oh, I go to an app and do it online, and it's like,
yeah, like what you were saying.
My mom, like, doesn't even know how to get to Google, Like, how are you expecting her to do this? And it's both ends, parents, because they need to, like, want to learn, and, like, because everything's just going to keep advancing.
But it's human nature to get complacent. If I have somebody always doing something for me, I'm not going to put extra effort. I don't need to. It's comfortable. But my parents, like you mentioned, your mom wants to go places. My parents always want to go to the location.
Yeah.
Like, it actually got them in trouble on their mortgage, unfortunately. Like, their mortgage was through Bank of America, and they would go to the Bank of America bank, like the bank, to go pay their mortgage.
Oh.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah.
I owe the bank money. I'm going to go to the bank to pay them. They did this for 2 years. The bank never applied those payments. They don't know where that money went, what the bank did with it, and then they got in trouble.
Oh my gosh.
Because they're like, these payments were never being made. And my dad was like, I was going to the bank. And the bank's like, well, that's not what you're supposed to do. So it was like,
wow,
that's such a big deal. Yeah. But to them, it was like, I owe you. I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
But it is difficult, but you have to stop.
I know.
You have to get better.
I know, and I'm trying, because I know my mom is capable to do so much more. I just feel like she just got used to it.
Yeah.
And maybe she thinks that she can do it, because just like I moved here when I was 15 and the language was tough and I still have an accent. Imagine my mom, she's not going to speak perfect English, but I know that she can learn more and do more for herself and for my brother.
But she doesn't have to.
She's like
kind
of like stuck, but then she'll do it for me, and then at the same time, if I don't do it, it's like she's not gonna do it, and she's gonna get like more frustrated, and everything's gonna like get worse.
I don't think so. I think you're wrong. And that's the story we tell ourselves to excuse ourselves for doing it for them.
Yeah, and I'm sure like people listening, and I've heard stories of like kids having to arrive from school from their younger siblings and having to take care of them.
Cook for them,
like make sure they do their homework. That's something I didn't have to do because I was the youngest until my brother came along. But it's just stuff that
I'm actually really against that. And I've talked to I think, which is another topic, but I think every kid should contribute to the household, and help your brother or sister if they need help with something. But I think it's really messed up when the parent has XYZ amount of kids and places their parenting responsibility on the siblings. No. That kid didn't have the kid, you did. If you can't take care of the kid, then you shouldn't have more kids.
But at the same, that I agree on. But at the same time, you already have the kids. You move here and you and the husband have to go to work to be able to afford things.
Then
like, what do you do?
There you should contribute.
You know?
Totally. I think, like, hey, if you're like 15 and your younger sibling is 7 and your parents have to work at night, yeah, you should warm up the dinner and take care of them. But I'm talking about, like, I've seen, like, here, go change the diaper. Here, go do this. Here, go do that to your brother. Oh, but that's your brother. You have to take care of him. It's like, no. Again, that's where that's an extreme. Aside from parenting your parent, you have to parent your siblings. That's, I do not like that. I do think they should help as a family, contribute, help your siblings, but don't add another parenting responsibility to them. That was your choice.
Yeah. It's just like different situations, you know, we have different situations that we need to deal with and try to adjust. But sometimes, you know, trying to help is not really helping.
It's
making
disabling.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know. I just wanted to really have this conversation to, like, talk about it, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about this either. And for the kids that are dealing with this, you know, like,
you're not alone.
You're not alone. You know, it'll be okay, but
you gotta get
even
tough.
Though it's gonna take
you gotta get tough.
Even though it's gonna take longer to teach your parents, like, take the time to do it.
Yeah.
Because if not, it's just gonna drag forever.
And you start with your parents, and that trickles into your relationship, because then your partner's like, oh, I don't know how to do this, and you're like, oh, I'll just do it for them.
Yeah.
I get very impatient. I'm not a patient person at all, and Jose's actually very patient. So there's been instances like Jose's my husband. He got cable for my parents. I think it was Dish. I don't know, one of them.
Yeah.
And it's like a Roku. I'm like, oh, there's no way my dad is ever going to figure that out.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, he will. I'm like, no, you don't understand. My dad doesn't know technology. He doesn't know English. He's like, I'll teach him. My dad knows how to work a Roku now. And it pisses me off, because I'm like, that's such a complex thing. Like, you have to search these channels. And there was, like, 2 times that he would call Jose and be like, I can't find the baseball channel. And Jose's like, okay, I'm going to teach you one more time. He sat there with him, patiently taught him. Now he can work it just fine. I'm like,
wow.
Really?
That tells you that they're capable of it. They're not willing to sometimes, because they're used to it.
But for a baseball channel, he'll find it all day long because he wants to. So
I know from Facebook from my mom.
My advice, honestly, here's my advice. Obviously, if you're under 18, you don't really have much of a choice. You have to do and help your parents until you become an adult. And for us, and for me, like, 18 doesn't mean much. It's like, okay, that's a whole nother thing. But you have to start teaching them, like you said, and you have to get tough. If they don't even put the effort to, like, read or be like, oh, I think this is this, but can you help me understand? Then totally help them. But once you yourself become an adult, you have to get tough with them.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to get used to it. And you're not helping them grow as people. Valeria?
I'm getting better. You know, like, my mom is trying, like, sometimes I do it myself because, like you said, it's easier and sometimes faster. The process is just too long to getting things done sometimes. But, you know, she's trying. She's, like, using, like, the translator to translate things, you know.
And that's how you get
like,
better.
It is going to take time, Mom. Yeah, it is. But it's the only way that you can get it done, you know?
And not even stuff that is language bound, just like adult responsibilities that she may have pawned off on you, or, you know, or may have been pawned on me. As I mentioned, my mom is great about that. She's always been very adamant on trying to not pawn stuff off on me, but there's just things that she can't control because she doesn't know the language. But I would just say you got to put your foot down at one point and stop letting, because they are taking advantage of you at one point, but then you're like, but they're my parents, they raised me, they gave me everything I have, which is true.
Or you just don't want to, like, make them feel bad.
Yeah.
You know, or offend them, or
but you're the kid.
Be a bad kid.
Like Chip would say, you didn't choose to be born, they chose to have you. So at the end of the day, even though you're an adult now, they're still the parent.
Yeah.
So we hope you guys liked it, and we hope you related to it. Let us know what else you would like us to talk about.
On the next one.
And get tough.
Yeah. And I mean,
I've gotten tougher.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm proud of myself. So, okay, well, have a great day. We'll see you next Tuesday.
We'll see you. Bye.